Hello everyone. Today's poem is Pipa by Bai Juyi. Bai Juyi was the most famous poet in the mid-Tang period, which is just after the civil war, 安史之乱. During this period of time, the majority of people still have the wishes, have the hope to restore the prosperous and glorious before the Civil War, which is the most prosperous Tang period. Yet the real situation actually is getting a bit by a bit worse. The government and the political situations is getting much more complicated, getting worse as well. Yet, for the poet Bai Juyi himself, he got a pretty much smooth career path before his 40s. He went to the central government at his early age, and he built his fame on poem writings very early in his early age. Yet, he still felt the unfairness, the poverty of the normal people, and not to say the bad situation in the central government and the political life. So he started to write a type of poems, so-called new musical department. This term was created by Bai Juyi himself. So the purpose is to reflect the real life of the normal people, which is the classic poems about, like the poems in the Book of Songs, like the poems in the musical department poems in the Han Dynasty. So he wants to reflect the life, the poor life of the normal people. And but there's still a big difference between his new musical department songs from the classic songs in the Book of Songs or in the Han Dynasty, because the name is some of the name was borrowed from the Han Dynasty, but more or less he created new names based on the story he wanted to telling. So he create new names in this type of poems. Also, there's no music at all. So it's just real poems, not songs. The classic musical department are all songs with music. So that's the major difference. So in short, the new musical department poems is real poems. The names may be created by the poet himself and based on the stories he's telling. And also, most importantly, he inherit the ideas of the musical department that major focused on the normal people's life, especially the poverty or the compliance of from the normal people. So that's why Bai Juyi was so popular in his time. And there's a very funny story that one person is so fond of the poems by Bai Juyi. He made the tattoos on his whole body. So his whole body was full covered with tattoos of the poems by Bai Juyi. Bai Juyi has the most many quantities of poems left it till today among the Tang poets, rather than Li Bai, rather than Du Fu. And very funnily, 2,600 poems and articles among of them 900 is about wine drinking. So Bai Juyi was a very complete person, so he has so many aspects, and he also has some of the turnover in his philosophies and thinkings in his lifetime. So the new musical department poems reflecting the poor people, reflecting the society, basically is before his middle age. And in his middle age, he was abandoned to the Yangtze River area, Jiujiang city today. And in the poem was so-called Jiangzhou. And from that time, he has a big change. He turned to stay away from the political things, from the, of course, the normal people's life. That's also political. And focus on his own business, focus on his own happiness. So he put his energy on the beautiful girls as well as wine drinkings. So that's the big change. So the poem today, Pipa Xing, actually it was written in between of these two periods. You can also feel the struggle, the bitterness feeling of the poet himself. The emperor of the time wrote a poem after Bai Juyi's death, with the word as 童子解吟长恨曲，胡儿能唱琵琶篇. So the kids, they know and they can read the 长恨歌, which is one of the most famous poem by Bai Juyi. 胡儿能唱琵琶篇. The foreigners, they can sing the song of Pipa Xing. So the Pipa Xing, the poem we are talking today. So the Huer means the foreigners from the northwest, from Iran, from the Central Asia areas. So that people was referred as Huer. They can sing the song of Pipa. So this can reflect how popular and how famous Bai Juyi's poem, especially these two poems, is so famous. The title of this poem, Pipa Xing, Pipa is a music instrument. It's from the Central Asia. If you want to see how wonderful the Pipa it looks like in the Tang Dynasty, you can check the Pipa in Nara Museum in Japan. That Pipa is from Tang Dynasty. It's not Japan. Xing is the name originate from the musical department. So that means it's normally it's a long poem and it's not limited by the rhyme and sentence patterns. This long lyric poems is not long enough. So Bai Juyi, the poet, wrote a prelude preface for this poem to help the readers have a better understanding of this poem. It's more like a novel rather than a poem. Yet that's the style of the new musical department poems. 元和10年，于左迁九江郡司马。元和10年, so that's the time. 于 is the ancient term for myself. So I was downgraded to the place of Jiujiang city. And the Sima, that's the title, the position he got. Of course, this is a lower position compared to his previous position in the capital. 明年秋, the autumn in the second year. So this means he has been staying in Jiujiang city for more than 1 year. 送客彭浦口. So he's see his guest off at the place of 彭浦口. 彭浦口 is just like a small lake between the Yangtze River and a small branch river. So it's just like the stomach in between intestine. I had a site visit to this place. It's totally different today. The lake was flattened to earth, to ground. And 100 years ago, this place was a concession to foreign countries. 闻舟中夜弹琵琶者. So he see the guest off. So that means they are on a boat in the lake, and he heard someone was playing the pipa instrument in another boat in the night, in an autumn night. 听其音. So when I heard that sound or that style, 铮铮然有京都声. 铮铮 is the sound simulation words, means the sound like 铮铮铮. So that's the very typical sound of the pipa. From that style and playing, Bai Juyi know that's the style of the capital. Jingdu is not Kyoto. In Japan, Jingdu refers to the Chang'an city. So Bai Juyi was such a curious, because this place, Jiujiang City, is not so remote as the place of Canton for Tang people, but it's still some places not well developed. So he has such a wonder why this place has such a wonderful music, and also it's the style of the capital music. So he sent someone to ask 问其人. He sent someone to ask the player, the music player. So the answer is the player, the girl, the woman, was used to be a musician in the capital city, in Chang'an City. And he has learned the skill, the playing pipa, from the two big famous musicians of Mu, Mr. Mu and Mr. Cao, or could be Mrs. Mu or Mrs. Cao. From the family name Mu and Cao, we also know these two persons is from the Central Asia. These two family names was the 9 family names given by the Tang Emperor to the 9 clans from the Central Asia. And we also know that 教坊, the places to teach music and dance, basically is the majority is the people from the Central Asia, or the people of 胡人. 年长色衰，尾身为古人妇. When she getting much elder and not looks so pretty, she had to marry to merchant. So here we should know that the merchant is the low-level people in the Tang Dynasty. 士农工商. So the merchant, the social level of the merchant is lower than the farmers, lower than the craftsmen. So the lowest in the normal people. 岁命酒，使快弹数曲. Thus the poet ordered more wine and asked the women to play several songs. 曲罢泯然自叙少小时欢乐事，今飘沦憔悴，转徙于江湖间. 曲罢泯然. So after playing the songs, she looks not so happy. She started talking by herself about the happy hours when she was young, and today she was lingering around, and his lookings faded, and he 转徙于江湖间. He's always travel around between places. There's not a place for him to stay down. 于出关2年，恬然自安，感斯人言，世袭使觉有谦者意。于出关2年, so I was downgraded for 2 years. So this is corresponding to the very beginning, 明年秋, which double confirmed the poet Bai Juyi has stayed here for 2 years. 恬然自安, so he feels a very peaceful and happy life when he during these 2 years. And when 感斯人言, when the poet heard all the talkings by the women, he has some feeling 世袭 from this night. 使觉有谦者意. The poet himself started to feel the depression, the sadness of the downgrading, of the sending him away to a very remote, undeveloped place. 因为长句, so because of this, 为 means he's doing. 因为长句, because of this, he made long sentences. So the long sentence means this poem. A pretty long lyric poem. 歌以赠之. This song is the gift for that woman. 凡616言. So 凡 totally 616 characters. 命月琵琶行. So I name it as 琵琶行. So this is the prelude of the long lyric poems. Okay, that's for today. And from the part 2, I will start to talk about the poem itself. Bye bye for today.